All right, good afternoon, everyone. At 12:36, I know I'm back again in the afternoon. We've had a lot of breaking news as of late. So again, if you don't see me in the morning, chances are you will see me in the afternoons. Hope you guys are doing well. 12:36 again on this Thursday. Say everyone who was first today on YouTube for forget was ZK. ZK, you made it on first. ZK, you're ready. Hope you guys are doing well. Again, obviously this being September the 11th, we've been talking about it on media and social media all day, being 24 years, which is wild. You know, it always stands out too. The weather was such a big thing that happened on that day that was observed, that everyone was referring to the sky condition that day, especially when it came to how the smoke was leaving Manhattan. The thing that a lot of you probably didn't hear as much about is that one of the reasons why we had so much of that blue sky is we had actually a hurricane that was off the East Coast, and a familiar name, Hurricane Aaron, was off the eastern seaboard, but it was staying out to sea, but a relatively stalled system as well before it was turning to the north. But because of where it was placed, that led to sunny weather, not only in New York and in D.C., but also into Louisville and Wave Country. We had a lot of blue sky that day. So that always stuck out with me is how pretty of a day it was, and how awful it turned out to be. Just a wild setup. But it's wild now to know that some weren't even around at that time, or now that weren't even born, to know what that day was like. But it is something that we all have our story, right? We always have the moment. Just as my family, my parents, it was about where they were when they heard about JFK. My brother he remembers where he was when he heard about Elvis. I was just a baby. So we always have our moments when big things like that happen. So anyway, our thoughts with everyone today, obviously, and for anything that's been going on with all of us lately. It's been a bit of a challenge. So that's why we're trying to focus on the positive here, right? Today on this Thursday. All right. So you can see behind me, and I hope Benson Boone doesn't come out. I don't think he's coming out till later. Hope he doesn't come out and do a flip behind me while I'm on. You see the crowd already kind of gathering right behind me there. Actually, let me show you a different view so you guys can see. Bourbon and Beyond kicking off here today. Last year was, I think it was like 3-4 days, something like that, later in the calendar than what it is now for this year. But it was actually hotter last year. Temperatures made it into the 90s, up to 94, in fact, as we got into last year for the first week or so for Bourbon and Beyond. But then we had a rapid cool down that kicked in toward the very end of the festival. Then we knew what happened with Louder Than Life, obviously, with the burnings of Helene that moved in the tropical system, all that heavy rain. This year, though, it's possible that both festivals may end up in good shape this year without much of a worry about at least rainy weather getting involved. I'm not going to say it's not going to. I know better than to say that right now, but the odds are pretty good on being dry. It's just heat. I will say on a side note, last year for Bourbon and Beyond, for last year, we also had a lot of humidity. That was something that we're not going to be facing for this round of heat. So while we're talking about 90s, especially for the city of Louisville, while we're talking about that trend coming our way, it will not really feel like it. The actual feels like number should be either matched where we're at on an actual temperature, or in some cases, it may even feel a couple of degrees cooler than what it actually is out. So the humidity, again, not out of control, but the reason for that obviously is the drought, which we'll get to in a second. 79 here in Louisville, 82 in Jeffersonville. We'll have the new numbers in about 20 minutes. I'm sure we've already crossed the highest we've reached yesterday, which was at 80. All right, this rapid onset drought, this is going to be updated soon, but this is something we don't see too often here. I think I've seen it maybe 3 times I can recall since they've started doing this product, that we've been included in this. And what does this mean? Because what's the difference between I guess a slow drought and then a rapid drought, right? Well, rapid drought conditions not only met with low humidity and lack of rainfall periods, but the heat makes a big player in this. So as I've mentioned before, we can have a week or two of dry weather, but if it's 70 degrees out, you're likely not going to run into a a rapid drought scenario. It's very slow evolving. But when you get to 90 or even above that, it absolutely uses whatever energy it can in that type of heat to burn up all the moisture that's out there, whatever's left in the grass, in the trees. So the intensity on plant life especially accelerates. And I know that's not what we want to hear when we're entering autumn. I already have seen a lot of trees that are drought stressed. Some change early here. We've already had a lot of trees, especially some of the maples have already gone red, but a lot of drought stress. So that's unfortunately is going to be felt here for a while, it looks like. And we didn't have any rainfall yesterday. So let me get into the drought map that updated today. And this isn't really a ton different than last week, because remember last week when they did the sampling on Tuesday, we had rain actually that day, that afternoon, and then another rain event after that. So that was not factored into the map. So it kind of all balanced out. The rain probably improved this map briefly last week, and then we're right back where we were, which goes to show you that you can get a heavy rain event, showers and thunderstorms, and even flood advisories to come out. But if it's another week before you see it again, especially when you're getting back to summertime levels on heat, it just doesn't matter. It's gone. And that's the problem we're running into now is, where's our relief today? Where's our relief tomorrow to reset us a bit? We don't have it. So now we're entering a different type of window here now. Now we're getting into the gritty of a drought setup. And this is a driest time of the year anyway. So this is not anything shocking by any stretch, but it's even drier than normal, which means it's really, really dry. Okay, so there's the moderate drought status, roughly around the Parkway South. Everyone's in the same ball game though on this. And again, this was done on Tuesday. But look how widespread this is in the lower 48. I wish I put up maps to compare, but I didn't have time to put those in. But I mean, you can see that areas that are about to have some of the most awesome fall color, especially New England. Oh man, Vermont doesn't want to see this. They don't want to see this at all. Obviously out west, been very, very dry. I mean, they had one, what was the year with 2019, 2020? I can't recall off the top of my head, but they had a nice little reset on the drought out there to the west, and then they've been back in it again ever since. But you know it's been dry because we haven't talked about as much on severe weather. You haven't seen video of tornadoes and large hail and flash floods. Remember how much that dominated the spring and the summer, really, up until just recently. And then suddenly it's no longer in the headlines. Everything's just quieted down. So this map isn't being too shocking here. Everyone's talking about where they were on 9/11. Yeah. Yeah, feel free to share your stories, guys. That's what the chat's for you all. I mean, you can ask weather questions, but it doesn't have to be just about weather. So if you all want to share your own stories, I welcome it by all means. Because it's something it's sometimes in a way too, not to get on another tangent, but sometimes it does comfort us too, to talk about that. Yes, the emotions come back, but it comforts us to just know that we haven't forgotten. We remember all the sights, the sounds, and what we felt. I think it's always important to remember that, right? All right, so the drought status. As far as any rainfall goes in the short term, I do think we could get one or two little sprinkles. The radar looks really wild here because it's on a more sensitive mode, but there's no rain yet. But if there are at least high enough moisture values right through here in southwest Kentucky, maybe a sprinkle. It wouldn't be anything to change the drought status. So yeah, I'm not sure it's really worth getting too excited about. Other features on the map, which I'll circle back around to, this low pressure. I think this is going to be one of the bigger key players actually in our weather than anything. And then you see some of the mountain rain, although this is kind of dangerous, right? You get into the fire season and you get these scattered showers and thunderstorms, but they don't have a lot of rain with them, just a lot of lightning. That's how a lot of your fires get sparked in this kind of a setup. And then just plain hot right here into the middle. Again, I'll explain where we're going to go here in just a moment. At least we're going to cover the short term to get you guys through anything in the short term, which is, this is an easy map. I'm going to flip through this fast. You ready? Boom. I'm going to hit it. 80s, easy. Tonight, 60s, no problem. Tomorrow, upper 80s, partly sunny, easy. Let's move on. Let's get into Saturday. No problems on Saturday. Now, wait a minute now. We get into late Saturday night into Sunday, and there is a slight little change here. There is a backdoor cold front at a very sharp angle from roughly south of Chicago through the IU campus along the Big Sandy. That area is where the front is moving in a backwards fashion. We call this, of course, a backward cold front. Sometimes these can be impressive with showers and storms. They are typically more known, though, for a temperature change. In the summer, they relieve the heat. In the wintertime, they really can enhance some of the cold, Arctic cold in the area. So they don't really have a storyline that fits active weather as far as showers and storms very often. And this is certainly the case. This one's going to have a fight because where in the world does this thing get into water from, right? I mean, it's coming from the northeast. You just saw the drop map. It's dry everywhere. We really don't have a strong south wind in advance of this here. It becomes a northeast wind here. So, yeah, there's a lot of odds against us on this becoming more of a problem than what you see. But we're at least going to watch it because it's about the only way the air is going to be moving around here over the next several days will be with this front. So the rain chance will remain, but I'm not impressed with it. So let me explain the setup here, and then we'll get into the long-term maps, kind of guide you through where I think this is likely going to go. This is the jet stream pattern's got a weird wiggle to it. It kind of dips to the Rockies, and it's got a very much a bubble of warmth right now, Ohio Valley, and then dips to that Carolinas low, then goes back out to sea. We call this a omega block because it looks like the Greek symbol omega. It's a sign that the weather pattern, anytime you hear omega block, it means whatever weather pattern you are in, it's likely going to stay that way for a long time. Long time, roughly 7 to 14 days. So if you're stuck in the heat, you're likely stuck in the heat. If you're stuck in clouds and rain, you're stuck in clouds and rain. And that doesn't really change very much. It takes a larger scale system to really shake things up. Sometimes a hurricane can do that. Now, the outlook for this year, the way this is going to close out in September, this bubble of heat, which is going to be over our area as we evolve here for this weekend and next week, it will shift a bit. One of the reasons why, not only will be some strong highs when we moving down across Canada, but it's this coastal low located here across the Carolinas. Because the weather pattern is so sluggish, normally the wind flow across the lower 48 has got the strong westerlies to move systems west-east. Of course, we really haven't seen that very often in the past year and a half. It's been mainly a northwest to southeast flow across Canada that we've witnessed more. But when you cut down both of those flows, everything stopped. The escalator is not moving anymore. This low pressure here off the Carolina coast, it's like free reign. It's like, okay, I can do whatever I want. So it's going to just wander around. It's going to visit the Smokies probably and then drift into the nation's capital. I don't know if it's going to go directly over us, which would somewhat help our rain chances. Still, the northwest side is the driest side of the system, so we're not in a good spot there. More importantly, given how quiet the weather pattern is, the clouds from this, I think, will be interesting because the clouds could be thrown back into Kentucky and Tennessee. That would only matter of about maybe 3 or 4 degrees on temperature. But hey, if you're not a fan of the heat, that could help. And it would provide for some natural shade. It won't be as bright and sunny beating down on us, more of a hazy sunshine or even a high overcast. But I still think this low pressure next week is absolutely going to be the catalyst in where our forecast goes on that. And that's a minor issue, but that's about the only thing that I see that will likely change our forecast next week will be what happens with that. Otherwise, once we get a larger system to move into Canada, we have a chance to finally create some bigger ripples in this jet, get that omega block out of here. It's going to be slow evolving. Some of the modeling really wants to try to build 1 or 2 of these systems into at least the Midwest by the end of next week and the following weekend, which next weekend is the last weekend of summer. And it'd be nice if we were to get some relief, but my worry with this setup is that the models can break down these omega blocks a little too fast, and we may end up with systems that may get stuck. I drew that too far, sorry. May get stuck more in this area of the country, and this may be where you get rain and even some severe weather will be in the Midwest or the northern plains. I don't know if it's going to be able to march quickly to the east. I think it's going to have a fight here because of the traffic jam that is ahead of it here off to the east. So a lot to monitor with that and see how the long term plays out. Once we can get these systems to roll through, I mentioned this yesterday, if we can get systems to roll through, I know it's going to be at the cost of active weather for the plains and the Midwest for some severe weather. Once that starts ramping up, that will be our first sign that a change is about to happen. It only takes the one system to get through. Once it happens, it creates refer to this a lot as like the dumbbell effect, but it'll push through, and then you'll get the little swirly Q, and you'll end up with a trough that will then take over for the Great Lakes and the northeast part of the country. That is when you really get into your autumn feel. When does that happen? Right now, I think the last 5 days, at least 5, maybe a little more, of September appear to be our most active. And we should get past louder than life before we worry about that. But it may be close. We'll be switching from the summer pattern into whatever this is going to be. We'll be in a transition period during that window, especially for the second half at the very end of louder than life. That's possible. What is interesting to me is this may lead to an active setup into October. Now, I just looked at some of the long range data. The CFS model we use a lot, even the long range Euro, and they are not really gung-ho on a lot of activity for our area. They really keep the flow a little more active here for the Northeast or into Canada, into the Northeast part of the country. But there are a lot of signs that the October setup will repeat what we went through in October 24. What happened then? Well, we had a warm spell. We got to 89. We almost hit 90 in October last year. But then we got into a couple of decent cutoff lows that formed, almost like the one that's in the Carolinas this week. We got into cutoff low Mageddon. One of them produced grapple, which is soft hail, or technically went down in the books as snow on the 17th of October. But it got chilly. It got chilly real fast. I got a feeling this is going to repeat. I'm not really sold on a lot of strong cold fronts moving in. I think we're going to end up with several cutoff lows into the Ohio Valley and the Midwest that will take place in October. So October could be unusually stormy in that sense. I don't have a lot of data yet to back that statement up because the models are not really reflecting that. It's just that going by the pattern, this to me seems the most likely way this will play out. I could be completely off the rocker here on this, but that's my gut feeling on it. We'll see how things evolve. But I think October could feature some more active weather. And in some cases, that could be thunderstorms, and in some cases, that could be some really chilly air with 40s and 50s for highs in parts of the Ohio Valley kind of stuff. So we'll see. And usually October is our driest month of the year. So to see an active pattern potentially would be a little odd, but as always, weather always tries to balance out, right? There you go. Any questions on that? ZK, would you say any warm days in October at all with no rain? I'm sorry to hear that, ZK. Well, we'll be thinking about you. And you know what, ZK, we're going to get some warm days. You're not going to get a completely washed out month. I'm just saying that we're going to have a little more activity. The early part of the month will likely feature more activity than the middle and end portion will. What'd you say, Adam? Swirly Q. Yeah, the swirly Q is back. Alston, any wildfire concerns? Well, that's always a concern. Obviously, we get the dry season here. We have, I want to say 30 counties, something like that, under burn bans. Louisville always has a general burn ban year round. So you'll never really see Jefferson colored in on our maps because they don't just declare a different one. It's always there. But I do think, yes, we're going to run into issue of grass fires and wildfires. One thing that will prevent that from making headlines right now is the lack of wind. Wind's a big player there. It's tough to burn because things can catch on fire, but you get this kind of a weather pattern and wind. Yeah, that's not good. That's not good. Things escalate quickly. So that's what we'll be watching for if any fire concerns develop, will be wind speeds. And right now, there's not a lot to talk about until we start to get out of this pattern and get into the swirly Q. Then the wind will be ramping up. So there may be an interesting crossover that happens on that threat. All right, here's the long range Euro. I'll be quick on this. Again, your core areas in the blue, your fuel for thunderstorms, mainly into the Midwest. That's where your higher humidity will actually be funneled because the flow is kind of going in a very odd way around Texas, and you got some tropical moisture from the Eastern Pacific all kind of funneling into the eastern side of the Rockies there. But it can't go anywhere. It's just kind of stuck. And then you see our low pressure here. Watch that map for the low into the Carolinas. So as we evolve here into Sunday, the backdoor front moves in, and you're like, okay, well, you don't see anything showing up, right? So we'll see. The new Euro's running right now, so we'll see what the new map shows here. But Tuesday, into Wednesday. That's when the low. Again, not a lot of rain here on the western side of it where it counts. So it's mainly just the high deck of clouds that may get thrown backwards. But we'll take it if it means shaving off a few degrees. Once it moves out of the way, though, the heat does come back before you get any type of cold front. We're going to have one more surge into the 90s. Don't know what day that will be yet. There's nearly a 10 to 15 degree difference on highs at the end of next week on that idea of when we flip. It makes sense what the Euro wants to do is warm us up before we get into finally, hopefully, a change and get some of these fronts in here. I just don't know how far east they're going to make it. So, moral of the story here, guys, don't expect a lot of change over the next 10 days. And there's going to be any change at all. It'll be at the very end of the 10-day period and the very end of September. I think looks more active than what the next 10 days will be. This is certainly going to impact fall color, but we still got time. We still got time. Typically, we don't reach peak until, in some cases, 48 hours before Halloween before we get to peak level. But the rainfall amounts you get at the end of September through about mid-October, they matter. So we need some rainfall, but we also need cool nights. Back in those 40s again would be awesome, and a lot of sunshine. That's what really gets your fall color going. You got to have that perfect recipe. Adam, what's the outlook for snow on Halloween? Oh, okay, I'll go ahead and tell you now since you asked. Nice try, Adam. Nice try. A lot of winter forecasts are coming out. I mean, not all from meteorologists. They're kind of on social media. I don't know where. I thought I was early with Halloween, but my gosh, they're everywhere now. It's kind of fun. I love snow, so just to see the outlooks is interesting to me. But it's everyone's got their own dartboard right now. No, Carrie, I didn't. There's a certain button that I have to hit on the feed on here. I thought I'd hit it. Apparently, I didn't. So that's probably messing up the feed there. So it's more user error, Carrie, than me. Then the set's different. I'm in the same spot though. Yeah, this is my house. I'm right in front of the Bird and Me Beyond right now. Tropics look quiet, Adam says. Yeah, for now. The excuse me, my voice is about shot today. The Gulf and the Yucatan area has a high likelihood of development at the end of the month into October. I just don't think even if it developed anything, it would have a chance to go anywhere, especially with this type of blocking pattern. It's too early to make a call on it, but it does become more prime at least. Remember, hurricane season goes all the way to the end of November. We got a long way to go. Oh, Carrie likes the banners. Okay. Well, there you go. Some are fans of it. Some are not. Hey, Bryce, does the current weather pattern and long range indicate an active winter? Bryce is trying as well. Everyone tries to give me to spill the beans, right? It's too early. One of the reasons why that Halloween was chosen, by the way, is that for pattern recognition, we call this Rossby waves to see how things repeat themselves around the globe. October, the end of September through about the 20th or so of October is a relatively crucial period that in the Northern Hemisphere, especially, our patterns repeat. So that period has to be analyzed. So I haven't even gotten to the analysis part on that idea of the winter forecast. I can't yet. It's too early. But in about a week or so, I should be able to, and that will help formulate how things will evolve into October. But it's all last minute. You got to analyze it, and then boom, it's Halloween, and you got to see what the result is. That's why I don't think you can do, especially based on that type of forecast, you can do long range outlooks too early. You got to have that pattern analysis first. If that makes sense. I don't know if that made sense at all. Adam says, cool banners, keep them. I'll talk to Hokie about it. I prefer the fun snow winter outlooks. They always say snow, right? I always get teased. You always say snow every year. It's going to be heavy snow every year. You always say that. You get paid to say that. It's entertaining, honestly. As I always say, don't read the comments, but I have to read them because I want to see what you guys are saying right now anyway. Any tornado concerns? Austin, that's always a concern in the autumn season. The drought may help, tapering that down initially. Anyway, I'm hoping that will be the case, but that's always going to be a concern, obviously, in the fall season. You got to get the jet back down here. If you are an active storm enthusiast, storm chaser, you got to have the tailpipe. If you don't have the tailpipe, you're just dealing with these pulse thunderstorms that are more annoying than anything. But to get a more of an event scenario, the tailpipe came down before I went on vacation. Obviously, it pushed everything down to Tennessee. That switch to the front happened real fast there on that day, but that's what created the discussion, the talk again about severe weather, was we finally had wind over us that had been missing for a while. It's missing again. So that's why we're not too concerned for a while. You guys can hear that. That was Marissa Burke. And probably our engineer, LA, he tends to throw a party all the time here in the hallway. So he's looking at me like, what are you talking about? How does Halloween night look for the kiddo, Shirley? Well, I got to get the winter forecast. I'm barely even handle Halloween. There's only been a couple years that I've been here. I think we've had alert days on Halloween or active weather, and I've had to delay the winter forecast into November. It's only been twice that I've had to do that. I'm hoping this year I don't have to, but if there's active weather, I think you guys would understand that I got to wait just a little bit longer to get past that. But we're always prepared for that just in case. Kenneth, I thought we were done with the 90s. We are done with the heat wave stuff of mid-90s, the heat index of 103. However, we certainly said we are not done with the 90s. And I have made very careful statements on that. So this is not a shocker by any stretch, especially when we've hit 90 almost every year at this time of year, all the way through, in some cases, like in 2019, early October. I'm hoping that this will be the last wave of it. But when you're in a drought, I'm telling you, you got to be very careful with saying you're going to avoid 90 degrees when you're in a drought and in a dry pattern, because it doesn't take long. You can heat up real quick. All right, I'm going to leave it for that for now there, guys. I can't talk, so I need to obviously get off the air and get some water and then get ready for more newscasts as we know later on today. I'm sure you guys are thrilled. All right, you guys are awesome. Thanks for listening to me ramble as always. It wouldn't be a Thursday without me rambling. I will see you guys coming up on Wave News at 3 o'clock with Myra and Sari, where we take a look at random cameras across the country, see if we can pick out if she can guess where that feed is from. We'll do that today on the 3 o'clock show. Take care, guys. See you soon.